Periodically, I give the cats uh, whatever's left of a rotisserie chicken after I've removed what I want from it. But they get the entire carcass, and they know how to eat the chicken without hurting themselves. Growing up on a duck farm, I saw both dogs and cats eating carcasses, so I've never been afraid to give my cats the carcasses of whatever I've been eating. I called them all to come down. Some of them came, some of them didn't. But here they are, enjoying their rotisserie chicken one at a time as they've come downstairs. They were all upstairs lying on my bed in a patch of sun this afternoon and sleeping in the sun. Downstairs I don't get much sun in the middle room or in the kitchen, so that's why they were all upstairs. They know where the patches of sun are in the house. I like to watch them upstairs, and one of these days I'll take pictures of them all on my bed. But for today, we're downstairs here in the kitchen. The natural in the front, who is thin and hunting around for bits and pieces, is a cat that had a stroke a year or so ago, and she has recovered extremely well. At first she was walking all sideways and couldn't function very well, but I medicated her and kept her going, and now she's doing very, very well. She really likes chicken, and the minute she heard the chicken coming from the refrigerator and getting torn apart and putting on their pan, putting it on their pan, she came trundling down. Her name is Sparrow. I call her Birdie for Edith Piaf, little bird, and I really enjoy her because she's got such guts, and she keeps going no matter what. She has her own little stool in the other room where she likes to perch, and I call her Queen Birdie. She may be thin, but she's very active. She can run up and down the stairs. She sleeps on my bed at night, curled up with Cha-Cha usually, and against the back or front of my knees. I was talking about the farm a couple of times earlier, and I wanted to tell you the story of Gitele, who was my grandmother's pet goose. Gitele loved my grandmother. She was a typical huge white goose with a long sharp beak and great wings that she could flap like a swan's, especially when she didn't like somebody or somebody got too close to Grandma. Gitele was Grandma's pet. She slept in the house next to the coal stove in the winter, or on the grate itself, or next to it, the grate that let the heat come up from the basement into the house. The large grate on the floor in the main room down here, and just above it a smaller grate that let whatever heat could go upstairs into the upstairs rooms directly above it. Anyway, here comes Birdie. She seems to have finished with whatever she wanted, although she's probably going to stop and pick up little bits and pieces along the way. She's a really good girl, and she's done so very well. I'm so very proud of her. I have to follow her here until I can turn around now and see where she's going. But I'm hoping I'll be able to get pictures of some of the other cats That's the back of Billy. Billy is the one who has had eyes that have been not infected but drippy since he was a baby. One of them is much smaller than the other. I think he's probably mostly blind in that eye. There he is facing us. He keeps his eyes pretty clean. I can't get near him to medicate his eyes, so it's up to him entirely. Most of these cats that you're seeing in the house now are cats that I've kept. I'm down to 9 out of all of the cats that have lived with me until fairly recently. Billy is one of them. He's probably going to end up either staying here or possibly going to a home where somebody wants to try to rehabilitate him. I don't know if that's possible because he really isn't, he was never a pet to begin with. First he was a stud cat, and before that he just couldn't be handled. He's the son of Pepe, who is the cat that I got from Debbie Rayner, who can't be handled and has, and I neutered him when after he threw several litters in which there were kittens like Billy that just plain couldn't be handled. I'm going to show you now. There is little Miss Birdie sitting on her throne. Doesn't she look pretty? Of course she does. She's a pretty cat. Now I'm going to go back to Gitele. Gitele stayed by Grandma all the time, especially when Grandma was out in the yard. And anything Grandma did, so did Gitele. If Grandma was digging in the garden or pulling weeds, Gitele was right there with her, either trying to dig in the dirt or definitely picking weeds. Geese are very, very good at pulling weeds. They do it naturally. It's part of their nature. Anyway, Grandma was out in the yard one day. I guess I don't know what she was doing, but Gitele naturally was with her, when a stranger came by, and the stranger was a salesman who wanted to sell something, I don't know what, to Grandma. Well, Grandma didn't want any part of him, and I guess she told him to go away, and Gitele was alert to everything Grandma wanted. Naturally, she instinctively knew what Grandma wanted. She didn't have to understand what Grandma said. And the salesman got too damn close to Grandma, and Gitele took over. She literally flapped those huge wings, went at him with her beak, chased him out of the yard, and ultimately pecked him in the ass and sent him off flying. I don't know how other way to put it, since the guy apparently jumped up in the air and ran like hell. So that's the story that Grandma told me about Gitele. There was another story about, it didn't involve pets, but it did involve the kids from Brooklyn who came out every summer for the so-called country air. And they would play in the yard with the other 5 kids, the 5 kids of, well, actually there were 4 at the time. Uncle Murray wasn't born yet. And Uncle Sammy persuaded them all to play Follow the Leader. Uncle Sammy was the 3rd child and my dad's first older brother. So all the kids lined up and they were going to play Follow the Leader in the farmhouse yard, and they were following Uncle Sam when he yelled and demonstrated crawl, jump, whatever Uncle Sammy said, the kids did. Well, none of them had experience with outhouses until they came out here to spend the summer. And periodically, some of you may or may not know, outhouses had to be moved when the pit that they stood over was full. So in this particular case, the outhouse had been moved and filled in,